I'm recording this section of the Indian Ocean Drive along the Turquoise Coast on September 25, 2020. This is a 90 km/h zone for the Lancelin turnoff, which changes to 110 kilometres just ahead of us. The section south of Lancelin on Indian Ocean Drive was 110 kilometres an hour, but was dropped after a number of fatal accidents to 100 kilometres an hour. Let's hope by the time you're watching this, that speed limit has been changed to 110, because it takes off a few minutes of the journey from Perth to Lancelin. On the right here is the turnoff for Seaview Estate. It's a semi-rural estate, large blocks, small farms, and to our left some views over the scrub, the sand dunes, and then the Indian Ocean. This section of Indian Ocean Drive is less travelled than the section from Perth to Lancelin, obviously, because a lot of that traffic turns off at Gilderton, Seabird, Ledge Point and Lancelin. And I find this section to be a really easy drive. Lots of long straight stretches here where I can overtake a car in front of me, but obviously the white line on the other side means that southbound traffic cannot overtake at that section. This road is reasonably new, I think in the order of being built in 2014. I'll correct that on screen if I'm wrong. It certainly cut down the time it took to drive between Lancelin and Cervantes and Jurien Bay, because previously you had to go east to the Brand Highway and then west at the end of the Brand Highway, well, at the turnoff to Cervantes and Jurien Bay. There have been a number of accidents on this section of the road too, including a tourist bus that was on the right side of the road colliding with a car that had overtaken another car on the wrong side of the road, and the driver panicked and ended up taking out that bus. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. Find that I'll be cleaning the windows at regular intervals on this trip because of the insects that abound out here. On our right is Ocean Farms, another semi-rural estate. I wouldn't suggest it's worth a drive around, but it is home for a number of people who like large blocks, private life, and some of those houses do have a view out to the Indian Ocean. Interestingly enough, today we are coming into some fog, some low cloud, which is a bit of a novelty for this drive. It does happen occasionally, and we are travelling here in the morning at about 8 a.m. So as you can see here, low cloud will reduce our visibility a tad. Quite delightful and eerie when it gets like this. But by the time I come back, because I'm only doing the run straight up to Greenhead and then back, this should have all burnt off. At the moment we have 65 kilometres to go until Cervantes, the first of the three towns at the north end of the Turquoise Coast. There is a lookout here on the left. This is the Nilgen Lookout, and normally you would be able to look out over the ocean, but today you'll look straight into some low cloud. This is a public toilet on our left, affectionately known as Shane's Shitters, after the member Shane Love, who lobbied to get those toilets put in on this road. They are the only public toilets between Lancelin and Cervantes, and there are no fuel stations on this road between Lancelin and Cervantes. There are a couple of rest stops. On your right here is one with an elegant shade structure and a picnic table. On the left is the bombing range, and that red flag means that they are in action today. So the Defence Forces use that bombing range for a host of activities. Sometimes they shell from about 25 kilometres out to sea back to land, and it's quite a fascinating thing when they do that. Other times they'll just use it for military exercises on the ground. So when you see that red flag, do not go in. They don't take kindly to that. It's extensive too. It runs, I'm guessing, 15 to 30 kilometres in length, and is probably about 15 wide. On the right here is a carrot farm, the Sumich carrot farm, and they are quite prolific growers and exporters of carrots. Every 5 kilometres there's a marker showing you how far you are from the next town, this time 60 kilometres to Cervantes. And you're getting this vision in one hit. Hopefully we don't have to stop unless we get something very nasty on the window, and I do have one fly in here unfortunately that is a little bit of a nuisance. Oh, I got him. There are no flies now. So as you can see, we've come out of that low cloud and things have returned to normal. On the right is Meadows Road. This will take you inland to places like Gingin or Mora. There are many long sections of road here where you can safely overtake, but very few overtaking lanes heading in this direction, which is north. .5 kilometres to Cervantes now. If you're pondering when the best time is to visit this section of our coast, if you're a windsurfer, you would probably come in January. January is quite magnificent with reliable strong winds, and all up this coast, all the way up to Geraldton and even past that, offers fantastic conditions for kite and windsurfing. If you don't like the strong wind, you'd probably come in March or April where it's still warm, but the winds have abated and it's quite beautiful. If you don't like flies, give late November and early December a miss. And at this time of year, being September, a lot of the wildflowers are out and the trees are in full bloom, as you can see left and right here with the yellow flowers. Visually pleasing. Cervantes 50 kilometres. And these signs are worth paying attention to. Look out for our wildlife, kangaroos, emus and echidnas. I've only seen 2 echidnas on the road. One was just off the side of the road and I stopped to photograph it and thought it was actually a dead one, but it was clearly alive. Quite beautiful little creatures, not at all worried by humans. And those quills are very sharp. Emus, well, they're just plain stupid, really. They've got no idea. When they get out in the road and they start panicking, they'll go in any direction. And they make a hell of a mess when you hit one. Shooting this during our COVID interruption to life, there are probably double to triple the number of caravans and campers on the road, because Western Australians can only travel intrastate and have only been able to do that for the past 4 or 5 months. So tourism to our states north and south from Perth has just gone berserk with locals. On our left, some beautiful dunes that you can actually access if you have a 4-wheel drive, and I'll show you the turnoff. I've done a couple of photo shoots out there and they're quite delightful. On our left here is a fenced off area that was earmarked to be a fuel station, but that didn't end up getting past. So the turnoff, if you want to go to those dunes on our left, is right here, just past the Lobster Shack sign and turning off at the Wanagaran Nature Reserve, and that's where you turn off to go to those dunes. And you will see a plethora of kangaroos and emus in there. The bombing range is still on our left, and at times when they have aircraft and ships sending in large artillery and bombs, for want of a better word, you can feel it all the way to Jurien Bay and back to Lancelin. It's quite a magnificent feeling. Not sure what it does to housing structures, and if you happen to be, as I have been a couple of times, situated on the edge of the bombing range where you can stand and watch, occasionally you'll see the plume of sand come up when these bombs come into contact with the earth. They're pretty amazing too, because those ships will be 25 kilometres out to sea and they'll land within 50 metres of their target. Now, if you're a photographer, I can tell you this is a great stretch of road if you want the sun or the moon setting over the ocean. And I've shot a couple of times here, a beautiful ballerina with the lovely sky in the background and the ocean. And if you turn around and shoot the other direction, you can get the sun rising and get whatever you're putting in the photo in the middle of the rising sun. One of the drawbacks, obviously, of driving out here in the country is the tremendous level of insects that we clean up on the windscreen, hence the constant wipers. So you're getting a warts and all version of the drive to Greenhead today. And here's the section where the Indian Ocean is directly in front of you, and you can put whatever your subject is on a crest here. There's a lookout on our left here with a walkway up to a platform where you can stand and shoot and see in the foreground the Wedge Island sand dunes. The Wedge Island turnoff is just here. This was a shack settlement that was only accessible with a four-wheel drive until they put this road in, and it's really opened it up. The government doesn't want people in there in these shacks because they've just gone and built these tin huts. On the left is the turnoff there, and it is a spectacular place. The beach is gorgeous, so if you have a four-wheel drive you can actually get to the beach. If you don't have a four-wheel drive, you just stop in the middle of the settlement. There's no roads, there's no shops, there's nothing but houses. Well, when I say houses, they're made of primarily metal, colour-bond steel, and they have no plumbing, obviously. It's all sewage, and they have their own water. "35 kilometres to Cervantes, and to our left is the Indian Ocean, and we're probably only about 5 kilometres from the ocean. There's a small island just out to our left a little while back, which you can see when you get down on the beach at Wedge Island. And a reminder too, at Wedge Island you can take a dog, but you can only go on certain sections of the beach with a dog. You can't take it too far north along the beach. That's also the place that the oldest message in a bottle was found, going back to 2018. And I know this story quite intimately because my wife found it on a day when she and I, my son and his girlfriend and a couple of other friends went for a drive in two vehicles along Wedge Island, and we went up the beach probably about 5-6 kilometres, and then we stopped the car because Tonya and her friend Grace decided they want to get out and go for a walk. And Tonya was walking along and found a nice bottle on the ground, picked it up and thought, hey, this might make a nice little piece for a bookcase at home. And she came back to the car and gave it to my son's girlfriend, Bree, who looked inside there and said, oh, there's something scrolled up. She originally thought it was a cigarette, so she tipped it out. And out came this scroll. When we got back to the house, it was wet, so we couldn't open it there. When we got back to the house in Lancelin, we put it in the oven to dry it out, unfurled it, and it turns out it was a note sent from a German ship called the Paula, and it was sent 132 years prior to us finding it. We did a whole lot of research with the Museum of Western Australia, the Maritime Museum, and discovered that indeed it was legitimate, because there was an entry in that ship's log that said on the date that the note was filled in, note thrown overboard, about 900 kilometres west of Perth, and it's thought that it quickly washed up on shore and stayed there for 132 years and some extra days. Guinness World Records confirmed it was a world record for the oldest message in a bottle, and it made world news. So a very exciting time. There's another rest stop just here on our right. This road is well travelled normally when we have international visitors, because they come to see the Pinnacles, which we'll pass at some point. But so many bus tours come this road, ferrying people from all nationalities keen to have a look at what is quite a remarkable tourist attraction. But there are other examples of the Pinnacles spread throughout this area on private land, which you have no access to. But they are quite remarkable and interesting shapes. I always thought they would make great venues for high-end fashion photographic shoots. Now up ahead you can see a ridge of white dunes. That is the Crescent dune, and it is most magnificent. On a number of occasions I've flown over that in helicopters and light planes to photograph it. On our left is the Nambung National Park. And as with all national parks, you are not permitted to take pets in there. On the left is the turnoff to the Grey settlement. Grey is a smaller version of Wedge Island. Same sort of shacks, built right on the beach. Once again, the government is not happy that they're there, but they've not yet been able to move Wedge or Grey, or at least move those people on. And this is a nice section of road here where you can get the sun setting straight ahead. I've actually taken some nice night photos on this section of road. You You can get onto the beach at Grey, and there's an island just out in front of it. It was originally used as a camp for cray fishermen, lobster fishermen. In actual fact, there are quite a number of shacks along this coast in odd little places and quite magnificent real estate right smack bang up against the beach. And in fact, at Wedge Island, a number of those shacks have actually fallen into the ocean and had to be dismantled and taken away by the local authority, which is one reason why they don't like having them there. Another rest stop here on our left. And beautiful dunes on the right. These are easily accessible. There's only one fixed speed camera along the Turquoise Coast as at today, September 25, 2020. Coming up shortly is the turnoff for the Pinnacles. It's a national park. You're allowed to enter any time you wish. There is a cover charge for cars, and at the time of recording this, it's around $15 for a car. And it's worth every cent of that to have a look. You can drive through the Pinnacles on a track that any 2 or 4-wheel drive vehicle can navigate, but you can also stop at various places, walk around. There's a visitor centre that sells souvenirs and food. When I say food, nothing that's made on site, just pre-packaged food. But it's a huge draw card for this region, and the turnoff is just up here on the right. I would urge you to go and have a look. You'll often see kangaroos in through the Pinnacles, and if you go at sunset or dawn, you'll get a fantastic photo opportunity. But worth noting that on your left here is the turnoff to Hangover Bay. It's a nice beach, worth a visit if you have time. Some good facilities down there, toilets and sealed car park. And we're only about 12 kilometres now from Cervantes. On the left here is the turnoff for Kangaroo Point. It's another bay, and if you have time, it is certainly worth a visit. Gets you right down onto the beach. And with Cervantes not too far ahead, I would urge you, if you're watching this in real time, get onto the lancelin.com.au website and book your lunch now. It is the most, at the Lobster Shack, it is the most magnificent restaurant dedicated to lobster. The Thompson family pioneered crayfishing, lobster fishing up here many, many years ago, and they have invested an enormous amount of money in this restaurant. It is right on the bay, and you can have lobster thermidor, you can have it in a burger, and you won't get any fresher. These lobsters have been caught here, they haven't moved away from the place. They're all held in tanks, and you can also do a tour around the processing factory, which is quite magnificent. The Lobster Shack. Get onto lancelin.com.au. It's only open for lunch. It's open every day. On the left here, some more sand dunes, which are very close to the road and quite lovely. You could walk to those if you could find a safe place to put your car on the side of the road. But getting back to the Lobster Shack, I recently took a whole lot of my staff up there. They do a tour where you can go and watch sea lions play out near the rocks. And it was a lovely day out, and we came back and dined. But in busy periods, it's crazy. They'll serve 800 over lunch, sometimes 1,000. So booking online means you're guaranteed a seat, and you will get your order bumped up the queue. And if you're on a time schedule, that alone is worth booking online. What else is there to do in Cervantes? There's a great lookout, not too far from the centre of town, reachable by a two-wheel drive. You just walk up a flight of stairs and you'll have a nice view over the bays, north and south. There's the stromatolites. Quite frankly, I don't think they're anything special, but you might think otherwise. And that's on the way to the lookout, and it's free to get in. If you don't like them, you just stay for a few seconds, otherwise you can spend a bit more time there. But Cervantes is here on our left. They have a very strong football team in Australian football that wins almost all of the premierships in the local country league. There's a great caravan park that's right down on the beach. There's a number of motels, restaurants, takeaways, a nice park, and a jetty that serves the crayfishing boats. Also some nice art installations, and on our left here you'll see a picture that a little bit way back there, probably 100 metres back there, lined up. You can clearly see an image of a ship. There's fuel here if you need fuel, but primarily you go to Cervantes for lobster, and then you get this clown pulling out like this, causing me to brake. And you'll come across a lot of this on this road. On the right hand side is the turn off to the Brand Highway, and that's the road that we used to have to take when we came to Cervantes before the Indian Ocean Drive was completed. occasionally you get motorists like that who slow down to allow you to overtake them, and it is always appreciated. One of the great drawbacks of this road is, given the number of caravans and campers, is they'll sit on 20 k's below the speed limit, which just drives motorists crazy in a long snake behind them. And then when they get to the double overtaking lanes, they speed up to 110 for some peculiar reason. There's an estate on our left here, Marine Fields, but I've never ever been down there. Maybe when you watch this and head down there, you could respond to me and let me know whether it was worth a look. On the right, there's a turn off to the Mola Hill Lookout. Crossing over the Hill River here. It doesn't often flow very heavily. I'm not even sure where it comes out to the ocean. But Jurien Bay is the next town. It is the largest town along the coastline. It has a high school, large caravan park, a number of restaurants, 3 fuel stations. And it's probably best known for its skydiving. There is a skydive school that does remarkable business here. And we're just 10 kilometres from Jurien Bay at this point.
So this is the entrance to Jurien Bay, where the speed drops to 80 kilometres an hour from the 110 before, and there is housing now on our left hand side, which is where the Indian Ocean is. Jurien is a crayfishing town, lobster fishing town as well, and has a local Shire government office here. It was previously out in the country to the east, but they moved the Shire to the beach because they realised this was the growth part of the region. And certainly more and more people are coming here. A lot of them come to retire. There's not a great deal of industry here. And now we drop back down to 50 kilometres an hour, which is the only time on the Indian Ocean Drive that we hit 50 kilometres an hour, because we're going through the heart of the town, which is a bonus for Jurien because they get all this traffic coming past their major shops in Lancelin, in Cervantes, in Gilderton, Ledge and Seabird. You have to actually make a turn off the road, head to the coast, and then come back out and backtrack. And a lot of people don't like to backtrack. Up on the left is the first of 3 fuel stations that I mentioned earlier on. There's 2 different shopping centres and a light plane strip. And petrol, interestingly enough, today is about 20% cheaper than it was in Perth yesterday. But on the left is the Jurien Bay shopping centre with a post office, news agency, an IGA supermarket, a Bank West branch, and on the right is the skydive centre, chock-a-block full of people today going up for mainly tandem jumps. Left right now is the caravan park, holiday park, the second of the 3 fuel stations on our left, along with some more shops, cafe, hardware store, a bedding store as well, and then not too far away here is the Caltex, the third of the fuel stations. Bumps back up to 60 kilometres an hour now, and on the right, just up ahead of us, is the local sporting complex with a football oval, netball courts and other stuff, basketball, etc. And on the left is the turn off to the old jetty. The new marine harbour, boat harbour, is just up here on our left and is quite a substantial facility. The most impressive in that respect along our section of the Turquoise Coast. Some lovely trees left and right here and all the way back down on the main street, which is a nice statement, and an information bay on my right. And here's the turn off to the industrial area and the boat harbour. On the right here is the turn off to the airstrip, where you will go to take off on your skydive. And that was Jurien Bay. On the right here is the turn off to the Brand Highway, which runs virtually parallel to this road, north-south. Next up is Green Head, the final town along the Turquoise Coast, and it's one of my favourites, primarily for Dynamite Bay, which I would highly recommend you go and have a look at. It's just spectacular, and there is a most magnificent walkway that will kill some time for you, a little bit shorter time if you run it. But there are various spots you can stop and just admire the view. And on a hot summer's day, going for a swim in the bay is quite magnificent. There's also a fuel station at Greenhead, but not much more. It's quite a small town. Have a look at this van in front of us. This would not be very economical to drive with that height. It'd be like driving a brick, I would have thought. And not terribly stable in a strong crosswind. On the left is the entrance to Sandy Cape Recreation Park, and you want to have a look down there. It's got a lovely area for camping, and I think it's only about $20 a night, but you can drive out onto the beach as well, and it is a real joyous place if you love camping, and only 20 kilometres from Greenhead. More dunes up here on our right. In fact, the whole length of this Turquoise Coast is sandy soil, and as such there are various sand mining areas where you will see large trucks coming out of and back onto this road, taking sand out to farms, which they use for, I think, adjusting the pH balance of the soil. can access the dunes on our right. Just back there's a trail, and park at the base of them. Even with a two-wheel drive, I think you would be fine. You'd obviously test it first, but you can park and then walk up onto the dunes and virtually have them to yourself. On the left there's actually a sand mine there, and that backs onto Sandy Cape and the caravan and camping area. There's a lookout just there on our right. I've never been there. Once again, if you go up there, perhaps you'd shoot me a note and tell me whether it's worth a look. And this is the end of our trip along the Turquoise Coast from Lancelin to Greenhead. This is the town of Greenhead just up here on our left, which you definitely should visit and spend a little bit of time, perhaps a bite to eat for lunch. Drop down and have a look at Dynamite Bay. There's a boat ramp if you wish to go for a tonker out to sea in your boat, whatever size that may be. But as a destination, I think it's a bit like Gilderton. Small, yes, but a great spot. On our left here is the information bay for Greenhead. Reasonably basic looking structure, and this, my friends, is the end of our journey along the northern section of the Turquoise Coast. The turn off here to lovely Greenhead.